to the Choice, Change and Action podcast, where you get to choose, change and take action to create a different today and a different future. These are my stories of choice, change and action, along with the phenomenal guests I have on here. From a really young age, I've always desired to create a change in the world. The planet has been a constant inspiration to me, and Access Consciousness has shown me the tools to know that anything is possible. And I keep choosing. What are you going to choose? Hello, everybody, and welcome to, Choice, Change and Action podcast is we are going to put this on. But this actually began because David asked if we could have a conversation together and about how we are in business, how we do business different, what we've done, what we've, I guess, accomplished. And that includes everything in my world, not just the good stuff, not just the money in the bank account. It includes everything. And so that you could get to know myself, Simone Milasas, and I am the author of Joy of Business. I've worked with Access Consciousness for over 22 years. And also you get to meet Dr. David Kubis. David, you want to give a little brief description of you?
Thank you so much, Simone, for the invitation. Yeah, my name is Dr. David Kubis. I'm an international lawyer based in Vienna, Austria. And for 7 years now, I'm also the international lawyer of Access Consciousness, where I get to create access as a business in a very, very different way. And what I would love to have a conversation about today is the joy and the invitation of doing things different. The beauty of doing the things different, and probably very, very, very important topic right now as we are in 2023 in December. The world is obviously going into a recession or economic depression. What a playground of possibilities for actually doing the business different. So now is the time to enjoy the difference rather than being concerned about the future. And that would be my first question to you, Simone. You started Business Done Different based on the joy of doing business. What is joyful for you when doing business?
So for me, and hence I wrote the book, Joy of Business, because business has always been something for me that's malleable. And for me, that you can change at any moment. And that for me is really joyful. So, and everything that you just talked about now, David, I get that we are in this time and place, which we've always been. Like, it's just, this is the part in history that we're living now. Like if you look at, 10 years ago or 20 years ago, or if I remember stories of my father and how he started, we're all living some form of change. And when change comes along, what do you do? Do you freak out? Do you embrace it? Like, what do you choose? And for me, that is so much the joy of business and Business Done Different, is the ability to look at what's in front of you and go, okay, now what are we going to choose? And be in question and choose according to how you can navigate in a different reality, in a different society. Like, I love the way they keep talking about that, the world is in recession. Well, I'm based in Australia. We started that so many months ago. Like I think we were the first to announce recession. Love the way when you announce a recession, everyone goes, oh my God. And I'm like, well, what was different than yesterday than today? The only thing for me is that constant place of projection of fear and, oh no, we're in trouble. And as a friend of mine put it, it's like people soon figure out that we're not going to die and let's start spending money again, and it really is the way you look at it. Like, say in Australia, for example, we've had our interest rates for housing increase. They said, the Reserve Bank said it was going to increase likelihood up to 3 times. I think we're on our 6th time now. So what I get that is creating is the fear amongst people that they don't have control, that they don't know what to do next. Now, a really basic element, if you've got investment properties, is the interest you're paying is a tax deduction. So, and when you look at the tax deduction that, like, well, the interest rate that we pay here in Australia compared to other places in the world, it's nothing. Like, it's low. So I think you've got to look at things in perspective. And for me, the joy of business is not just sitting there in your own little box, with all the projections that people put upon you, which is so much about rules and regulations. It's about expanding outside of that box and having a look at what is really going on. And as you mentioned, David, there is always other possibilities available. There's always other possibilities. I don't care what's going on. If there's a war, there's a recession, there's a decline in sales in your industry for some reason, whatever, there is always another possibility. But you have to be the one that chooses to literally open your eyes, listen to the whispers, and be in question and go, okay, so now what am I going to choose? And for me, that's a really big fun part. And I know for you, David, that's a really big fun part too.
You said something really, really profound. You said for you, business is the joy of change.
Yeah.
Everyone tells you at university, at business school, or out there is do not change. Stick to your plan and focus. That's what when I found, you remember the first time I met Simone Milasas was in Stockholm at an introduction class for Joy of Business, Business Done Different. I asked one single question that completely changed the future of my law firm because I allowed myself to change. I always thought I'm doing something wrong if I change too much, and everybody tells you, oh my God, we can't rely on you. You always change, focus, concentrate. You can't do it like this. The joy of change for me was the foundation, the foundational element of creating my business the way I enjoy it. And since then, I change fear into the joy of change. What needs to change here rather than, oh my God, let's go down the rabbit hole, which is probably the most amazing tool of Joy of Business. What can change here, and then enjoy the change.
So let me ask you too, David, though, because we've both mentioned change and that we like it. And for me, like I said, the initial thing is business for me is malleable. Change, like when you have something that's malleable, you're changing it all the time. So that was very exciting for me. So how do you perceive that people, you have a law firm, how do you perceive people in Austria, law firm, etc., receive change?
Well, generally people don't like change. They always say when something changes, oh, it's more work, it's trouble. Now I have to do again.
Wow.
But the minute I ask them, well, what do you need to do different? What can you do different? Now they look at, wait a minute, it's actually nothing wrong. For me, change is a new adventure. Change is actually the spice to life. Change is what makes life and business livable. Life would be so bored if nothing ever changed, and life would go against nature if nothing changed. Because if you look at nature, there's nothing that doesn't change. Nature is constant change, constant movement, constant transformation. So it also invited me to look at, wow, what if I ran my business as nature grows, as the planet works for millions of years? Change is what drives everything and what makes everything beautiful, especially in a time like now, in a recession. And also, there are even countries where interest doesn't exist, but they suffer from increased prices. They go, oh my God, everything is becoming so expensive now. Just because something gets more expensive doesn't mean your business will go down. It doesn't mean that life will end. Everything, even that, you can use to your advantage. And that's the beauty of Business Done Different. How can I use it to my advantage, and how can I enjoy the transformation into it, the change out of it, the change into a new adventure? And if you looked at your business, oh my God, another adventure is coming up.
Well, I love, David, I need to mention something, because the way you spoke about this and say in your office, and you said one thing that people go to, oh, it's more work. If you're listening to this, flip the script, okay? You destroy and uncreate everything you've ever been told. What if everything you've been told about business you found out was a lie? And what if you started functioning from what you know? Now, what do I mean by that? It's like being questioned. Like you go, oh, we're gonna come in, we're gonna change everything, okay? You're gonna change everything, and then people go, oh no, it's gonna be more work. What if it's less work? What if it's more fun? But if you have this story, like, And I'm going to give you an exercise. Like, David and I do business done different classes, all over the world. It's like there's Access Joy business facilitators all over the world. Please go find one. You can go to accessjoybusiness.com. They are absolutely fabulous classes. We happen to be co-facilitating one in Dubai in January. So if you want to start the brand new year, come to Dubai and come to that class. Or you can also jump online. We have live streaming as well, which is, absolutely fabulous. But here's the thing. It's like if you are asking for that change to show up and you are being in question and you change the story, like what's your current story? Okay. So I'm giving you home play, and it's not homework because it should be fun. What's your story? Tell me your story. Write down your story, your business story. And what I want you to have a look at is write down, and even if you can, write and do old school, pen on paper. Write for 5 minutes, right? 5 minutes I want you to write for. Now, then read back through it and look at it. And how much of that is your point of view? Number one question. Because is it, or did you create that point of view based on your society, your culture, your religion, your parents, your industry standard, right? And then number two, it's like, look at how many conclusions you have there. Because if you've gone to all of these conclusions, a very simple one, like David said, oh, it's going to be more work, you will literally create that. And the way we use these access consciousness tools is changing the way you be. So, I mean, even if I look at one of the businesses I have is called Antiques and Possibilities, and it's a shop down the road from me in this little village square. It sells antiques and we've got possibilities. We called it that to make it a little bit more malleable, right? Now, if we have stock, there's two things. We have stock in that shop, right? If we kept that stock in that shop in the same place, we would have less sales. It's like people walk in and they tend to look at a certain place. So if you're in retail, use this. They look at a certain place, like people will look left or they'll look down or they'll look up. Like everyone has this area that they sort of tend to look at. Most people actually look to the left when they walk into a shop. So what do? You change the shop around. I cannot tell you how many times we'll have the same stuff in the shop and someone walks in and goes, oh, I've never seen that lamp before. You're like, we've had this lamp for 5 months, but okay, and they end up selling it. Like we have a beautiful jewelry display and every single staff member like sets it up different. I don't want them to set it up the same because the way they set it up different, every time you walk in there, you're like, wow, somebody sees it with a different eye and then you create a different look. So it's a constant state of change in order to invite people to come play with your business.
I like that. And that is exactly the energy that keeps also your business. And how much fun is it to rearrange furniture? And I can guarantee you people helping you in that job, they love to decorate. And that's another element. If you think that business is work, why don't you add to that list what is fun for me? What is really joyful for me? And that is one thing that I learned from you. Make that list of what your business, tell me your story, and pick the things that are truly fun for you. And what the things that are not fun, ask, can I delegate that? Can I find someone else going to help me with that? So that at the end, your day becomes your vacation. You literally don't have to go to work. You can actually say, no, my life, my work, I turned my hobby into an income stream. That's where I am now because everything I do is kind of.
I want to ask you a question about that, but I just want to go to this piece again that you were just saying, because I love that you added to do that list, right, of what you enjoy. But on the flip side of that, what do you not enjoy? So for me, right, I'm not someone who walks into our shop and goes, okay, that should go over there. This should go there. This should go there. I don't see it. That's not me, right? Like I remember doing renovations on the house I live in years ago and with my ex, and he could see everything. I couldn't, but I know what I like when I see it. So when they set it up, I just go for it. Do what you want to do. And what's the worst thing that can happen? We change it. But I know when I walk into the shop and I go, wow, the shop looks great. It feels good, So I know that piece and I'm going to acknowledge that. But I'm also going to acknowledge I am not the one to know where to hang the paintings that's going to look, beautiful. They know that. So it's not, as you've mentioned a couple of times, David, this is not about right or wrong. It's about acknowledging what you're great at, what you find joyful, what others are great at, and what they find joyful. Oh, yeah. And guess what? Business done different becomes a whole lot of ease.
So you mean you don't have to do everything yourself?
No, and I learned that one a little bit the hard way, David. I think you may have as well. This is the first tool that I learned from Gary Douglas, Gary Douglas is the founder of Access Consciousness. And it was the first Access class I ever traveled to was a business class in San Francisco. And, at the time I was not good. Like, I had a financial mess. I wasn't exactly sure how much it was in, but I was sort of refusing to look at my finances. And I remember my father, who was an accountant, and he said to me, Simone, I think you need to go. He said, it's going to cost you like $10,000 to go to this class, accommodation, everything. And I'm so grateful the way he looked at it, because he said, you need to go and figure out if this is what you want to do with your life, which is interesting because I was looking at this class as a business class to increase my current business. But my father was willing to see a different future, and he was willing to see the future of where I was involved with Access Consciousness. And I sat in the front row, like just in awe of everything, because it was also nothing that I didn't already know, but nobody was talking about it. And that's what I find occurs in Access Consciousness classes and the Business Done Different classes. And one of the tools that Gary said was, he said, how many of you have the point of view that nobody can do the business as well as you? Put my hand up. No one can do it as well as me. How many of you have that point of view that no one can do it as well as you? And then he said, and then he goes, okay, so who are you hiring? I went, oh, wow, I'm hiring people who are not as good as me. And I was like, well, what do you do? And he said, ask for people, hire people who are better than you, who are greater than you at accounting, at sales, at cold calling, at organization, at whatever it is. And I realized that I was only hiring people who couldn't do the job as well as me, which means I have to be the source of creation. I have to be the source point. Everything has to come to me. Now, when I started asking for people to show up who were better at sales, who were better at admin, who were better at all of that, and not based on judgment, just they either had more fun with it or they found it easier or quicker or whatever that was, then guess what? I had more time and more space to create more. And that's what you should look at in a business.
And I so love this, Simone, because this is the story you told at your evening taster in Stockholm. I remember I was sitting in the audience going, oh yeah, you can talk as easy. You are not a lawyer. You're not responsible for everything. So I went to the mic, and the more you talked about the ease and all this stuff, the more angry I got.
You're like, let me tell you my story. You'll know I can't have ease.
It sounds so good, but I'm a lawyer and I have responsibility. And can you imagine if something goes wrong, I could lose my life. I could be liable. I was going down the rabbit hole of justifying why I can't do this. And then I asked the question, and you asked me that question. So who can you hire this better than you? And suddenly I went, wait a minute, I could hire another lawyer who is specialized in this. I could hire an accountant who is specialized in that. And I sensed my universe melt. I went back to Vienna. 2 weeks later, I found 2 people who were better than me with all the details, one lawyer, one accountant. And since then, the rest is history, as you say. But
Wow.
even me, thinking it's so nice to read, thinking it applies to everyone, but not to me because my situation is so difficult. Please, if anyone listens out there, and if you think that applies to everyone, but not you because your individual situation is so difficult, nothing can be too difficult to change, okay? Nothing can be too difficult to change. That's what I learned from you. That's why I still enjoy 7 years later. Every day I wake up, everything I do. So big thank you to you.
Oh, you're so welcome, David.
That question, because there were so many people at the mic, and I was like, no, it's just an hour, but I need to. I need
okay,
that.
So, well, there's another tool, because I think there was like 150 people in the room, and I was giving another tool about energy pools, and we'll talk about that in our Business Done Different classes. And actually, I have a free business energy pool and a free money one on YouTube. We'll put them in the show notes so you can see what we're talking about. But I remember I gave you as an example, because I said, if you want to know how to pull energy, this gentleman over here at this mic, because you were standing at the mic just like, you are going to answer my question, lady. Like, we're talking. Like, I don't care there's 150 people in the room.
You called me out. And when you
But it
called
was
me out, I got so embarrassed and said, now she's embarrassing me. Damn it.
and look where you've
What
come
a-
now. So I want to touch on one other thing, David, because you mentioned that now your hobby has turned into a business, and I see people do this all the time. Something that they absolutely love, that they really enjoy, and they call it a hobby, and they will not allow themselves to make money and make a lot of money from that. So can you just give a couple of tools or questions, or how did you go about that?
Well, I did that list of what is fun for me. And what I actually did is, okay, if all of that was fun, am I actually allowed to just do that? I had to go through myself and go, am I actually allowed to just do that? And I said, you know what, I'll give it a try. So I hired people, I added people to my life. I started businesses, what's doing fun for me. I started that real estate development business in Vienna, on the countryside, even in Cyprus, because it's fun. And I added the people that do the daily work, what is not fun for me. So I had to be bluntly honest with myself. Am I actually allowed to have that? And it took me a while because, growing up in Vienna as a lawyer, you have to deserve it. You have to work hard. At least at the beginning, you have to do it yourself. I worked through that. And as soon as I experienced how much fun it is, you're never tired. Okay. You're never exhausted. You wake up and go, oh my God, another day. That's too beautiful in order not to have it. And I
Yeah.
started with one little thing. So allow yourself to kind of taste it, experience it, and once you experienced it, at least I just said, wow, that is so much fun.
Mm.
I would just want more of that. And
Yeah.
I kept going, and I still keep going, because there are things that are sometimes challenging and difficult, but it's probably 10% and not 90 anymore. So
Yeah,
I flip that around.
and you gain so much awareness from that. Like, if I've got, both of us have got lots of stories about, maybe where we've lost money or something hasn't worked out or a deal or anything like that. And I know if you're listening to this in your own business, you have stories too. That's part of how you create business. All of those, I have gained so much awareness. It's absolute gold. You may have not made as much money as you thought, or the deal might not have come through like you thought, or you lost money, anything, but the awareness you gained is absolute gold. And then it's, what do you do with that? What do you choose with that? Like, you keep choosing, and you keep choosing, and you keep choosing from the awareness and from being in question. That's a really different reality.
It's about the awareness you gain. It's about the good time you had. Because my point of view is, when you're in business, everything that puts a smile on your face or makes you enthusiastic about something, it's a good return of investment. Don't just look at the money, at the financial results. Look at the smiles you have. Look at the enjoyable moments, at the excitement and the enthusiasm about what you're doing. For me, that's a big part of the joyful life I'm living right now. Money is nice and I like it, but having a really great day, having that joyful moments in life,
Yeah.
that's a value. Don't
Yeah.
ignore it. More of that.
And I totally agree, David. And I've gone through so many different phases with money, and I love money, and I love having money, and it's relevant and it's not relevant. I love this. If it puts a smile on your face, it's like, move forward, because the universe has your back as well. So David and I have these classes coming up. We have the one in January. We will put it in the show notes so you can find out. It's in Dubai. Like I said, you can come to Dubai, or you can jump online. But I also have another Business Done Different class happening in December, which is online only. And you also have one too, David, right? Yeah.
Mine
So
starts
we'll
on December 7th and yours starts on December a week later, right? 11th.
I think, yeah, the 10th, my 10th. But here's the thing too. If you sign up for David's class or my class or the, one, if you do one of them, the next one you do, you actually get 30% off. So every single class is completely different. If you are really interested in business, I highly recommend doing a class with myself and David, doing a class with David, doing a class with me, doing a class with somebody else. If you look at the Joy Business Facilitators, anyone. because every single one of them is so different. It depends on who comes along to the class. You get a most brilliant, beautiful manual that is worth the price of the class alone. Like, you can take that away and look at that for days and weeks and years on end. And even the tools that we've just spoken about today, like if you're a CEO, if you're, on a board of directors, or if you just have an idea, if you've just jumped out of the shower and thought, God, I'd love to have this, to generate this, then this is for you. And as I say, if you get up in the morning and you have blood running through your veins, then you're in business, because how are you living your life? Okay. Don't waste it. It's like, this is it. Let's explore, let's have adventures, and let's have way too much fun. And you can sign up for all 3 classes. I dare you.
Well, we are there for you. And I'm looking forward to Dubai. Incredible energy. Facilitating that with you. I'm so looking forward.
I know.
And interested, join us and join the party of business possibilities, and let's see what we can explore and find out together.
Well, we will create more, I know. And I said to someone the other day, David Kubis is one of my favorite breakfast people because whenever we're somewhere in the world and we meet for breakfast, it's like, we'll create a new business, or we'll create a new something, or we just talk to each other and are really vulnerable and go, hey, I've got this going on. Can you help me with this? And talk it through. And I think that's a big piece in business as well, is not having to pretend that you know everything or that you have it right, is the ability to go, hang on, this is feeling a bit weird in my world. Can I talk this out with you and see, have you got some questions? So you can maybe change the trajectory of it. So it's like, it's about the exploration. It's not about getting it right.
I'll have more of that. Let's explore.
Let's do it. Okay. So David, thank you so much for joining me here on the Choice, Change and Action podcast. Don't forget to subscribe. We will have my classes and David's classes mentioned below in the show notes, and access to accessjoybusiness.com as well. And hey, if you come, that's great. If you don't, that's great too. It's like, just choose greater for you today and every single day. So
thank you
so much.
Thank you, everyone out there. Goodbye.
If you enjoyed this podcast, please make sure to hit the follow or subscribe button on your favorite listening platform to get notified of new episodes. We read all the reviews, so if there's any topic you would like to hear about, let us know. If you'd like to know more about the tools, information, and classes mentioned in the podcast, head on over to SimoneMilasas.com and follow me on Instagram at Simone Milasas, or the podcast has its very own link on Instagram at Choice, Change and Action. Don't forget, you can download the show notes, and lastly, have way too much fun today.